Hello, Crippers and Stingrays. Ranger Bill here again. By now, I'm sure you know that school is out, and we're working our way through a number of things that will be happening in the future. But one that's going to keep happening, I hope, is me getting a chance to read to you guys once in a while and keep things as normal as possible. So, I don't have a lot of kids' books, children's stories here on the farm. Most of them are locked up in my classroom. So I went looking today and I found the Golden Treasury of Poetry. This is one of my childhood books, actually. It's got my original address over in Virginia Beach, and it's got my mother's name in it. And there's a couple, three poems in here I'm going to read. But when I got into the book, I came across some newspaper clippings that got my attention, and so my copy of The Witch of Pungo, which was one of my favorite books growing up, is locked up in my classroom along with some of my other books. And so I called the libraries, and the good thing is our libraries are interconnected, Accomack and Northampton County, and they're still open for curbside pickup. So I could ask for the particular books to be sent in. I can slide by and pick them up tomorrow, and I'm going to read some out of The Witch of Pungo over the coming days. It was one of my favorite books growing up that kind of spawned a life of adventure for me in the 60s and 70s, and had a lot to do with creating Ranger Bill. So anyway, that's for tomorrow. But for today, I pulled out three poems that I wanted to share with you by Robert Louis Stevenson. Poetry was a big part of my life growing up as a child. My mother encouraged it. I dabbled with writing my own poems, which were fun, and they all encouraged me to keep doing it. And if you've ever been one of my students, then you've definitely been exposed to poems in my class, because I use them, taking the words from word searches and turning them into rap lyrics, song lyrics, poems. And so a lot of my students have written some pretty interesting poems and rap lyrics over the past months. So this is where that love for poetry started, was in this book, which was in my mother's bookcase throughout my entire childhood, and I still have it. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to read three of them here right before the sun sets, right before your bedtime. First one, again, by Robert Louis Stevenson, is The Pirate Story. He tells a story about children making make-believe within their surroundings and finding adventures right close to home all around them. The Pirate Story. 3 of us afloat in a meadow by the swing, 3 of us aboard in a basket on the lee. Winds are in the air, they are blowing in the spring, and waves are on the meadows like the waves are at the sea. Where shall we adventure today that we're afloat? Weary of the weather and steering by a star, shall it be to Africa, a steering of a boat? To Providence or Babylon, or off to Malabar? Hi, but here's a squadron a-rowing on the sea, cattle on the meadow and charging with a roar. Quick and well escape them. They're as mad as they can be. The wicked is the harbor and the garden is the shore. So he paints a picture of kids on the high seas and having an adventure in their backyard in a basket. And you'll find that's a common theme with him and with me, is to find the adventures and the great stories all around us. And as a child, I had a wonderful backdrop of Seashore State Park as my adventures, but here on the shore, you have amazing places that you can explore during this time away from school, and I encourage you to keep reading. I'm not encouraging you to go stomping around the shore looking for pirate treasure. Do this with your parents, but you can find great adventures right here at home. And Robert Louis Stevenson was, as a child, was sick and at home quite a bit, cooped up, and he dabbled with a little poetry here and there to get by. Those stories kind of turned into a life and an occupation. He wrote Treasure Island, Kidnapped, and this Children's Garden of Verses, which these next 2 poems come from. So not only can you enjoy yourself and explore your world with poetry, but you can make money at it too. All right, the land of storybooks. At evening, when the lamp is lit, around the fire my parents sit. They sit at home and talk and sing and do not play at anything. Now with my little gun I crawl, all in the dark along the wall, and follow round the forest track, away behind the sofa back. There in the night, where none can spy, all in my hunter's camp I lie, and play at books that I have read till it is time to go to bed. These are the hills, these are the woods, and these are the starry solitudes, and there the river by whose brink the roaring lions come to drink. I see the others far away, as if in fire lit camp they lay, and I, like an Indian scout, around the party prowled about. So when my nurse comes for me, home I return across the sea, and go to bed with backward looks at my dear land of storybooks. Robert Louis Stevenson. So, and the last one, take a break. It's called Escape at Bedtime. Take notes. The lights from the parlor and kitchen shone out through the blinds and the windows and bars. And high overhead, all moving about, there were thousands of millions of stars. There nearer were such thousands of leaves on a tree, nor of people in church or the park, as the crowds of the stars that looked down upon me and that glittered and winked in the dark. The dog and the plow and the hunter and all, and the star of the sailor and Mars. These shone in the sky, and the pail by the wall will be half full of water and stars. They saw me at last, and they chased me with cries, and they soon had me packed into bed. But the glory kept shining and bright in my eyes, and the stars going round in my head. Robert Louis Stevenson. So, that's readings for the day. One other thing I wanted to point out is I do a lot of sitting around the farm in isolation, is to take note of the birds that are around me, put up feeders, and then just watch them. If you get time to do that and you want to get out in your yard and do that, you can use references like Sibley's, but you can also get apps on your phone. There's one called Merlin that's free, and then the Audubon Society has Audubon Birds, which is an excellent reference. And you can get out, identify, understand the habitats, the calls. You can start listening and understanding what those sounds are around you. And it's not for everybody, but for some of you it might be a fun thing to do for a couple hours each day. And it kind of lets you get focused on your environment and understanding what's living around you. All right, so until next time, be good to everybody out there, and remember, I love you. Peace.